We welcome you, Eagles everywhere, to the NovaCare Complex. It's Thursday. Our coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles 2021 presented by DraftKings. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy. The Eagles getting ready for the San Francisco 49ers, the home opener on Sunday, Lincoln Financial Field. Packed house. Tons of excitement, energy. It's going to be great. Fran, welcome. And we're sitting here in a great position. Eagles 1-0 after an impressive win on Sunday in Atlanta. Getting ready for a much tougher test on Sunday.
The prevailing sentiment on Eagles game plan this week, we talked about what the atmosphere was going to be like over at Lincoln Financial Field. Electric from Mike Reese, bananas from Mike Quick. Just feel like I cannot wait to hear and feel what the Link is like on Sunday when the 49ers come to town.
Yeah, it's been a long, long time since that Seattle playoff game 2019 season. Since the Link was packed, it will be on Sunday, and the Eagles getting ready for a San Francisco team that defeated Detroit last week, 41-33 in Detroit. The Niners have spent the week in West Virginia to avoid that coast-to-coast travel. And they come in, Fran, with some questions, some injuries, losing Raheem Mostert, their best running back, losing their best cornerback as well. And some injuries along the defensive line. Javon Kinlaw still not practicing. Dre Greenlaw, their safety, who had an interception return for a touchdown, did not practice yesterday. I'm sure we'll get clearance today, a little bit more on a sense of who's going to play. But, I mean, the Eagles need to take advantage of this. Get out to a 2-0 start. Take control of a banged-up, bruised, and battered NFC East.
Yeah, and obviously, look, when you look at this 49ers team, they have a lot of talent on both sides of the football. They're very sound schematically on both sides of the football. But you mentioned, I mean, those injuries can certainly play a role here in Sunday and what the outcome is. I think when you look at the Eagles, you still go in saying, look, the battle in the trenches is going to be a little bit tougher than they were last Sunday against Atlanta. But that does not mean that you can't still win both of those battles in the trenches. And I think that that's where everything is going to start for this Eagles team really every week here, Dave.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with every team. And the Eagles certainly were impressive on Sunday in Atlanta. That guy right there, number one draft pick, Devontae Smith, who admitted today, in case you missed it, that he literally has no social life. We kind of knew that. Like, doesn't do anything, hasn't gone out to dinner yet, celebrated his NFL debut by going home and playing Madden football. The kid is all about football, and I'm not sure there's a whole lot else there.
That's all right.
That's all right with me, exactly.
I like that, and I like that a lot as well, because that's basically how I am these days. But I love you. Honestly, like, he's been everything that you were hoping for, right? I mean, up to this point, like everything off the field, everything, watching him in practice every day during training camp, seeing him in the preseason, and then seeing him come through week one, opening drive, first NFL catch, first touchdown. Like, everything you could have hoped for as an Eagles fan, I think you've gotten with Devontae Smith.
Well, look, the Niners, we'll talk about this really quickly. We're going around the practice scene here at the NovaCare Complex. Our coverage presented by DraftKings. Eagles on the practice field. We are live from South Philadelphia. Let's take a look at some of these injuries the Niners have. Okay, so Jason Verrett out for the season, top cornerback. Emmanuel Mosley didn't practice yesterday.
Which, by the way, that's their top two corners, and they
Yes.
came in with questions about those two guys.
Yeah.
So to be down those two, that's not ideal for them.
So behind them, Ambry Thomas.
Yep.
Diamadori Lenore.
Diamador Lenore. Both of those guys are rookies.
Yeah. And then Josh Norman they signed, who's, been around for a long time, a lot of experience there. I mean, to me, if you have one-on-one coverage against Devontae Smith, throw the football to number 6 10, 15, 20 times a game. He wasn't covered at all on Sunday. He was open the whole game.
They played a lot of zone coverage last week, San Francisco, a lot of cover 3. And my guess is they're going to have to lean a lot into playing zone coverage with the issues they've had at corner. They're going to try and rely on that. I don't think they're going to be putting their guys in too many man-to-man scenarios. But at the end of the day, you still like those matchups, whether it's man or zone, on the outside for this Eagles football team.
Yeah, and it will all come down, as you said, to the trenches and the Eagles offensive line really handling that blitz package from the Falcons beautifully last week in a hostile environment. And Fran, we talked about it a week ago. How would Jordan Mailata respond? We saw how the big man responded. How would Jalen Hurts respond? How would they get the ground game going? They got it going with Miles Sanders. And so the Eagles offense, almost perfect. 3 trips into the red zone, 3 touchdowns. Hurts, no turnovers. Too many penalties up front, no question about that. But for the most part, the Eagles are doing a terrific job out of the gates, and now they've got to take it a step further against a good San Francisco front 7, featuring Nick Bosa, featuring Fred Warner. Fran, do they have weaknesses in that front 7?
No, not really. I think when you look at the front, look, if Greenlaw is out, then that's going to be a loss for them at the linebacker spot next to Fred Warner. But when you look at that defensive front, no Kinlaw. That makes them a little bit lighter on the inside, and I think Detroit did have some the ability to get some movement, especially in the run game. A lot of downhill runs for the Lions last week. If you're fantasy football players out there, maybe you had Jamal Williams or DeAndre Swift in your lineup. You feel pretty good about that. But I think when you look at this Eagles offensive line, so all right, well, if you got to control Armstead and Bosa, because Armstead, he is a load as well, Dave. He is, he's built like a defensive tackle, but he lines up off the edge at 6'5", 320 plus pounds. His athleticism at that size is truly unique. So you have those two guys, you have to control them. But otherwise, can you get some movement up front in the run game, and can you protect in pass protection? That's going to be a big test here this Sunday.
Yeah, and let's not sugarcoat this. The Niners had a huge lead before Detroit came back late in the game. But still, Detroit put up some numbers. They moved the football. They got something going, at least a little bit in the run game. They had 116 yards in the run game. As you say, Williams had 54 yards on the ground. DeAndre Swift had the big 43-yard screen pass for a touchdown. So there are some openings here. The Eagles obviously have been spending the week looking, probing, trying to figure out how they can attack those weaknesses. And we'll see. Nick Sirianni said there's a lot left in the offensive playbook. Obviously, we're only in week 2, Fran.
Sure.
Looking forward to seeing what else he's got up his sleeve.
Yeah, it was a really fun day on Monday, just going and watching the film of this Eagles team and looking at the offense. What most impressed me was they were able to do a lot of different things. They were very multiple offensively. So when you look at RPOs, you look at the quarterback run game, you look at the downhill run game, you had perimeter runs, there were zone schemes and gap schemes. Then you go to the pass game. You had screens, you had the quick game, you had some vertical shots that were taken away, but Jalen Hurts did a good job of not forcing it and getting to his check down. But you did lots of things to get the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands quick and then allow for yards after catch. We saw those quick little RPOs to Quez Watkins out of the gate. Then you saw the quick wide receiver screen to Jalen Reagor that goes for 6 points later. They did so many different things offensively, and that just gets me excited because we talk about the speed at the skill positions at wide receiver, tight end, and running back in this offense. Best way to leverage that speed, get them the ball fast and let them go to work.
Yeah. Also a very strong game from the Eagles special teams group.
No question.
Jake Elliott perfect on his field goal attempt, 43 yards, 3 PATs. Eagles converting that 2-point conversion. Great call from Nick Sirianni there. Excellent job after the Atlanta Falcons committed a penalty on the first PAT. So just a terrific job all around. Eagles coming out. And I think really, Fran, energized everybody, not only in this building, because it certainly has been electric in this building this week, but everybody out there who was wondering what this team was all about. Hey, we all know what this team is about. This is a good football team. Yeah. Eagles are good on the offensive line, good on the defensive line, fast on offense. Didn't you notice how much faster this team is on offense than it's been in recent years?
We were talking about that on myself and Greg Cosell on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast Monday night, was how different. I mean, it's night and day from like the 2019 season, the 2018 season to where they are now. The Eagles have an extremely fast offense. A lot of guys that if you get them the football, they can do some damage. And again, at all three of those skill position spots. And you factor the quarterback in there as well.
We're coming to you live from the NovaCare Complex, our coverage of the 2021 Philadelphia Eagles, presented by DraftKings. I'm Eagles Insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy. And we want to remind you to be with us on game day. If you're not at Lincoln Financial Field, our kickoff show presented by Exalta begins at 12:15 on the website, our official team app, and our social media channels. And we're going to get you live to Lincoln Financial Field to set the tone, and then the Eagles play the San Francisco 49ers, and then we've got the post-game show presented by Rico. All the reaction from Lincoln Financial Field. Fran, your biggest concerns, not concerns, your biggest matchups for this game.
Well, you look at blue chip players, right, and you go on both sides. So Nick Bosa and Fred Warner on the defensive side for San Francisco, guys that you have to be aware of. Warner, one of the best coverage players, period, in the NFL. Not just coverage linebackers, one of the best coverage players, period. His instincts, his route awareness, his instincts in zone coverage, he is as good as it gets at linebacker. And then you go to the other side of the football, the blue chip players there, they've got one of the best tackles in the league at Trent Williams, right? So that's going to be a challenge for the Eagles defensive front. They did have some success against Williams last year, Sunday Night Football out at their place. But then you look at George Kittle, maybe one of the best yards after catch players in all of football. And this offense in San Francisco, very similar to what I was just talking about at the one here in Philadelphia, in that it is predicated on yards after catch. They do it differently, but they want to try and get the ball into Deebo Samuel's hands, get the ball into George Kittle, into Brandon Ayuk. And they have a lot invested in some of these skill position players. They want to get the ball to them fast and let them go to work. They do a great job of creating space for them.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. There's Aaron Sipas, who will be a guest of mine on this Eagles Insider podcast, which will drop later tonight or tomorrow morning. He and Jordan Mailata, my guests, he and Jake Elliott have really worked together, Fran. The operation is smooth, and it has been smooth. And I really got to give credit to the Eagles personnel department to make the decision. Cam Johnson served the Eagles very well in his time here, went into free agency. Eagles allowed that to happen. He signed with the Houston Texans. We all wish Cam the best of luck. But in January, the Eagles signing Aaron Sipas, who I don't think any real, even hard Scrabble football fan knew about. Eagles signed him to a futures contract and then don't bring anybody in to challenge him, obviously believing in Sipas, and he delivered in a big way on Sunday. 47.3-yard gross average, 3 punts inside the 10-yard line.
Awesome.
Held well. We've seen him kick off in preseason.
Yep.
He is off to a flying start. An end-over-end start, if you will.
Yeah, those punts inside the 10 are so critical. One of them came late in the first half. That helped set up the Eagles' 2-minute drill offensively. They punt the ball, get the ball inside the 10, and then the defense forces a 3 and out. Now the Eagles get the ball with favorable field position coming back. And so those punts inside the 10 are huge for a defense and obviously for an offense as well if the defense can get off the field.
Yeah, and really good coverage last week on Avery Williams and on Cordero Patterson, and certainly the Eagles winning the hidden yardage battle, which is always important. And then, again, in a game like this, against a team that, look, a lot of people believe the Niners, even with the injuries, are a Super Bowl contending team. We'll see about that. Tough road for them with consecutive games away from California. And then the quarterback situation with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yep.
Jimmy Garoppolo had a strong game, 314 passing yards. Trey Lance comes in, plays 4 snaps, throws a touchdown pass. It's something for the Eagles to think about defensively, in addition to all the pre-snap movement and all the things that they're going to do in the jet sweep game and get Deebo Samuel the ball in space. What do you think about this 2-quarterback system? And might Trey Lance play a little bit more?
I think so, because we have to keep in mind that Trey Lance had that finger injury late in the preseason. He broke a bone, he chipped a bone in one of the fingers of his throwing hand, and so did not practice really all that much. a week ago, and so they only had a handful of plays built in for him against the Detroit Lions. That is not the case. He is a full go in practice. So my guess is he'll be a much bigger point of the game plan this week, and the Eagles have to be ready. Jonathan Gannon talked about it earlier this week at his press conference. They have to be prepared for the different wrinkles they could see with him in the run game. When they put him out in the field, it adds a whole set of layers to what this offense could be, and that's why they traded 3 first-round picks to go and take him number 3 overall. And so it's only a matter of time before he's the guy ahead of Garoppolo. That said, when Garoppolo's been healthy, this offense has been efficient. They've won a lot of football games, and they've been putting the ball into the end zone. The Eagles have to be ready for what he can bring to the table as well.
Let's talk about their main weapon, Fran. We saw him last year. There's Devontae catching footballs. We've seen this drill in the past. Have a ball in your one hand and catch the punt with your other hand, and nobody's surprised that he did catch the ball. I'm going to say this, and I said this actually on a radio hit the other day. He dropped, I think, 2 passes, maybe if you want to be really picky, 3 passes in his preseason debut.
Right.
Over under if he drops 3 more the rest of the way. I mean, he's just so good.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that I would expect him to be one of the leading target getters for this Eagles offense. So he's going to get the volume. So maybe he has 3 over the year just because he's going to see the ball so often. But it's not going to be too often when he puts the ball on the ground.
Yeah, anyway, so getting it back to the main weapon.
Yes.
George Kittle last year when the Eagles played the Niners out in San Francisco, targeted 15 times, had 15 receptions, 183 yards, and a touchdown. What are you doing with George Kittle?
Well, the Eagles last week against Kyle Pitts, we talked about this, right, was who's going to guard Kyle Pitts, and it turns out nobody did, because when you play a lot of zone coverage, you don't necessarily need to have one guy shadow one guy. So I think ultimately it's going to be a team effort to try and slow down George Kittle. This week on Eagles Game Plan, we're breaking down a play of Kittle last week against Detroit where it kind of focuses in on how they're able to get him open. But that requires everybody on the back 7 to have an understanding of what their role is in coverage. Don't take the cheese if they show you one route going one way. You have to stay disciplined, stay in your area of responsibility, and don't leave that area, because that's when George Kittle or Deebo Samuel or any of these other skill players come flying in with plenty of room to run.
And last week, Kittle 4 catches, 78 yards in that win over the Detroit Lions. Fran, the zone scheme, the outside zone scheme, the wide zone that the Niners run, very effective, and they lose Raheem Mostert, former Eagle. So the way it's been described to me, 1 cut back, and, they just open these wide lanes, and you really have to be disciplined. And the defensive line has to do a great job of occupying blockers. And then the linemen, the linebackers, safeties, got to come in and fill and be sure tackling. What are you doing against a run game that is proven, that produces big plays, and frankly, is very difficult to stop?
It's really difficult for the guys on the backside, especially. So imagine if you're watching this, you say, okay, there's a run going to the right, going to the defense's right. Well, that means the defenders that are on the left side, you have got to be really cognizant of staying in your gap defensively. So you have to be on the run, and if you're responsible for the area between, we'll say, the guard and the tackle, you've got to chase that gap. You've got to stay with it. If you are getting a little bit tired, a little bit gassed, and remember, if they start running these runs over and over and over again, the reason why teams like running a lot of the outside zone, you're getting these big defensive linemen on the move, play after play after play, and you can tire these guys out. So what happens is if you were a little bit slow to get into your gap, now all of a sudden there's a huge cutback lane for the offense, and that's where those biggest plays come. You might get the running back, he'll stay true, he'll stay on course on the front side of the play, and it's 6 yards, 7 yards, 8 yards. It's a good run. But those big chunks, the 15-yarders, the 20-yarders, they typically come on those cutbacks. So the backside of the defense has to be disciplined with their gaps and make sure they are where they need to be in this defense.
Who has more pressure on the Eagles offense or the Eagles defense?
I would say probably the Eagles defense, right?
I agree.
I think the Eagles, because you know that this offense, they're coming in with pretty much all their horses. I know there's no Raheem Mostert, but when you look at the running backs they have, guys that are good fits. The rookie Elijah Mitchell, he is a guy that really fits this scheme well. He had a 33-yard touchdown in his first NFL game the other day. So you look at these running backs, my guess is they're going to just kind of plug and chug. They're just going to keep on rolling.
And there is Darius Slay, big play Slay, getting his groove on as the Eagles defense goes through these individual drills, warm-ups. We're showing you live coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles, the 2021 football team 1-0. Our coverage presented by DraftKings. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro. along with Fran Duffy, as we take a look now at the tight ends. Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, both of whom did a very nice job. Ertz gets very little credit, but he should get a lot of credit for that rub route that he ran to free Devontae for the touchdown reception from Jalen Hurts. And Goddard, diving catch in the end zone. Terrific job from him. And then they also got Jack Stoll involved with some 13 personnel when they wanted to run out the clock. And I happen to think that Jack Stoll can contribute in the passing game as well.
I think so. He made some great catches in the preseason. There were some one-handed
joint
grabs.
Practices he did as well.
Exactly, no question. So excited about what Jack Stoll can bring. But you nailed it with Goddard and with Ertz. Both guys a huge part of the game plan, both as blockers and as pass catchers with what they did. I mean, Ertz had that big catch down the field the first half where Jalen kind of underthrew him a little bit. That could have gone for a huge gain. And it still went for, 28 yards? But that could have been giant in the game. So I think when you look at both Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, huge part of this Eagles offense.
Zach Ertz with the blonde hair, joined last week by Jason Kelce with the blonde hair. And Kelce revealing today why he dyed his hair blonde. He had a bet with Ertz. He thought Ertz was going to be traded. Well, Ertz hasn't been traded. Doesn't look like he's going to be traded.
Nope.
And so Jason Kelce went blonde. Now, he also was asked kind of as he left the podium, how long are you going to keep it blonde? He didn't think he'd keep it on the entire year, but he said if the Eagles keep winning, then he's going to keep it blonde. Because blondes have more fun, right? When you're winning, you have more fun. Landon Dickerson behind Kelce there. Landon Dickerson yesterday, his first complete practice. Now, I imagine he's still got a long way to go before he would step up and play. But with Brandon Brooks taking a rest day, Landon Dickerson a full go at practice, the Eagles' second-round draft pick, healthy, and you know that he's just slobbering to play football because this is a kid who loves the game.
And watching him every day at training camp, obviously he wasn't out there on the field, but he was right at the front of the line, standing next to, if it wasn't Jeff Stoutland or Roy Isfin, one of the assistant coaches, he was standing with Jason Kelce and Brandon Brooks and Lane Johnson, just soaking in as much as possible and asking questions. Very involved. I was watching the offensive line almost every day during training camp, and you could just see how passionate this guy is about football. Nick Sirianni was asked this week at one of his press conferences about the rookie class and how many of them played a part here in week one. He said, well, we targeted guys obviously that have a lot of talent, have a lot of upside, but we also targeted guys that loved football. And it's very clear that these rookies, they all check that box.
Very exciting times there as head coach Nick Sirianni. What does he have going on? He's got the dog, DAWG mentality going on with this football team, and certainly everybody has kind of gone way beyond what happened in Atlanta. It's a 24-hour rule around here because, let's face it, the Eagles are going to be challenged on Sunday against the Niners. Kickoff at 1 o'clock at Lincoln Financial Field. Make sure you're with us on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, as well as our official team app and our social channels for the kickoff show presented by Exalta. 12:15 we start that, and we'll take you live to Lincoln Financial Field to get you in the mood for week number 2 of this Eagles season. Friend, we look around the NFC East, and teams are in trouble. Tonight, the Giants play the Washington football team. The Giants, a miserable performance last week against Denver. Offensive line is in ruins. Saquon Barkley not healthy. Evan Ingram not playing. Daniel Jones under fire. Washington football team loses Fitzmagic for an undetermined amount of time with a hip injury. The Cowboys now losing against Tampa Bay, losing DeMarcus Lawrence for up to 8 weeks here with a foot injury. Randy Gregory on the COVID list. Lots of problems around the division. One that I will say this over and over and over, you can never figure out. The NFC East has not had a repeat winner since the Eagles did it in the seasons 2003 and 2004.
And that's the thing, is that when you look at this Eagles team and for Eagles fans out there, like, oh yeah, like, you know, the Eagles got this. This is their opportunity now to take advantage of this division with all the losses this week. It's not only about that, because remember that the division last year, it was a grab bag for the win at the end of the year. You had to, regardless of how bad all the other teams' records were, you still have to hold up your end of the bargain. So the Eagles have to go out, take care of business Sunday. Look, if you jump out 2-0, that's a really good start here for the division, especially with next week. You got a game in the division against the Dallas Cowboys here in week 3.
Fun times for the Philadelphia Eagles. We are glad you're with us here on this Thursday at the NovaCare Complex in South Philadelphia. Our coverage of the Eagles 2021 presented by DraftKings. And we take a look in at the offensive line. Jordan Mailata, the new contract through 2025. The Eagles continuing to invest in the offensive and defensive lines. Fran, that is where you win football games. Jordan will be my guest on the Eagles Insider podcast, and he has got some great stories just about getting to this point and kind of what his reaction has been watching on the Jalen Reagor touchdown. Mailata flying through the air, throwing a block, and we loved it, right? It was a great play. He thinks it could have been better. Make sure you tune in and find out why. Lane Johnson, who has a big assignment this weekend. Fran, I think we talk a lot about Nick Bosa. Armstead, as you say, is also a handful.
I don't even know if Armstead had a tackle the other day. I think he might have had one like downfield, but he was in the face of the quarterback. I mean, every single day or every single play. He was out there so consistently. And I know Nick Bosa came up with a sack. They had a couple other sacks over the course of the day. You mentioned Greenlaw had the pick six of Jared Goff. But Armstead, I think, had 9 quarterback hurries against the Detroit Lions this past week. Really, really impactful player. Can line up inside and outside. He's got outstanding length and athleticism. He's a really tough matchup. So no question, Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, Jason Kelsey, they're all going to see a little bit of Arik Armstead, former first-round pick out of Oregon a few years ago.
Eagles secondary also, look, I think Avonte Maddox, I think he had 3 breakups last week. Whatever, he had 5 tackles, 8 tackles. He was really good. In the slot, the Falcons tried to line Pitts up over him a couple times, Fran. It seemed to me, again, I didn't study it that closely. Tell me about what you saw from Avonte as part of that group with Steven Nelson, with big play Slay, slowing down Calvin Ridley. He had 3 catches in the first drive and only 5 the entire game, and then Pitts, who was a non-factor.
Yeah, I really, the secondary was just very disciplined in coverage. They didn't let anybody behind them. You're okay with giving up some short catches here and there. I think the big part, when you look at how was Atlanta able to move the ball early, it was a lot of play action. They were able to find some voids in the defense, but after those first couple drives, the Eagles' defensive front, they were able to A, stop the run, and B, get after the quarterback and impact Matt Ryan, and that impacted a lot of those throws, and that certainly helps the secondary out as well. But as long as you don't give up those big plays over the top, I think this defense is going to be in good shape. They're going to be happy with the performance. So that was really the job there for those 3 corners, with Darius Slay, with Steven Nelson, with Avonte Maddox. Everybody that was out there, don't let anybody get past you in coverage.
And the only team in the NFL, at least through Sunday's games, to not allow a pass play of more than 20 yards or more. Even the longest gain, I believe, was 18 yards.
Yep. That was on the first pass of the game.
First pass of the game, and the Eagles really holding up nicely. And it's just such a good, that addition of Steven Nelson made such a difference. You get Nelson and Slay out there, 2 established starters in the league. It allows you to move Avonte Maddox inside. It allows you to bring Zach McPherson along the way he needs to be brought along. He's a rookie. He's a 4th-round pick. He's developing. The ability to have him kind of as your 4th cornerback, get some reps. I mean, the Eagles played everybody on the roster except for Joe Flacco on game day. Allows you to develop him, Fran, and that's going to be big for the rest of the season.
Yeah, they don't need to force the issue with Zach McPherson, and that is certainly a good thing as a rookie, because we saw last year so many corners go in the top 50, top 60. There were a handful that were first-round picks and early second-round picks. For the most part, they struggled. And I think when you look at cornerback, it's one of the toughest positions to play in football, much less to do it as a rookie. So to not have to be thrown in there last minute, or not have to be thrown in there as a rookie, yeah, like there was chances that he could play certainly this year when it's all said and done. We know how attrition works. We know how injuries go in the National Football League. But at the end of the day, you're in a good situation if you don't need to force it at corner.
I believe Marcus Epps on the field, which is a good sign after he suffered a concussion on Sunday. I saw J.J. Arcega-Whiteside also on the field. We'll see if they practice beyond this individual portion. Right. But both players, important. I mean, depth. J.J. blocked terrifically well. We don't know if Rodney McLeod's going to play, although he was, I believe, a limited participant yesterday. So he's working his way back from that knee injury. Eagles a little bit thin at safety if Epps and McLeod cannot go.
Yes, and that'll be something certainly for us to watch here as the next couple of injury reports come out on Thursday and Friday as we get closer to Sunday. But the safeties would go in that same bucket we talked about earlier with corner. It's all about not letting anybody behind you in the secondary.
And there's J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. who really he started the game for the Eagles, instrumental early on in blocking, sprung Quez Watkins on that first play of the game, the screen pass. And so he's really understanding his role. Spoke to Nick Sirianni about that this week. And, he will be rewarded with some throws his way. He's doing the dirty work now. He's doing it willingly, and he's doing it very well. And we expect him to be involved in the passing game at some point here as a reward, because, you can't just block. You got to get the football in your hands sometimes. You are a wide receiver. You are hungry for the football.
I thought JJ had a good camp too, and that's why just seeing him come out and kind of carry that over to the regular season, obviously as a blocker, but like you said, you get out there, you earn those reps. At some point, the ball's going to be coming your way as a pass catcher as well.
We welcome you into our coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles on this Thursday. Our coverage presented by DraftKings. We're live at the NovaCare Complex as the Eagles getting ready for the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday, 1 o'clock kickoff. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy. And we are excited here at the NovaCare Complex as the Eagles getting off to a great start with that win in Atlanta, and now ready to step the game up a full notch against a really good team. We've all talked, Fran, about how tough this early season schedule is. If you can get a win on Sunday, you get that extra day of rest, and then you go out to Dallas, where the NFC East schedule begins. And it's such a weird schedule for the Eagles in the division. A game against the Cowboys in week 3, and then nothing until late in the season.
Right. And it's all those division games backlogged for the most part under the back half of the schedule. To me, like, you try and start, if you know how this goes, right? When the schedule comes out, we all get so sucked into, all right, what are the first 4 games like? Then the second 4, you break the schedule up into
Play
quarters.
By quarters, yeah.
No question. But then when you get into this part of the year, when you get into the regular season, it's all right, what can we do to go 1-0 this week? How do we win this game? You take care of that week by week by week, and now you're start stacking W's. And that, the more W's you can get in the first half of the year, now the identities start to form on both sides of the football. You have an idea of what your team is. Then you can go on that run, especially when those division games, those all-important division games, hit your schedule in the back half of the year.
Well, I do think it is important to watch how this team responds. They've said all the right things this week about the 24-hour rule. I mean, certainly I've been around long enough to see teams that do not respond maturely after a big win. And so, you want to kind of capitalize on that win, and it's a road win. You did what you're supposed to do. You go play an Atlanta team and dominate them, and then you come home and you do the same thing to San Francisco. That's what good football teams do, and this Eagles football team looks like it's a good one after week 1, but we know that this is a 17-game schedule, and things change in a hurry in a very unforgiving NFL season. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy. We thank you all for joining us for our coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles presented by DraftKings. Make sure you're with us on Sunday, 12:15, the kickoff show presented by Exalta as the Eagles get ready for the San Francisco 49ers. Have a great day, a great Eagles day, everyone. Fly, Eagles, fly. And, of course,